Welcome to World News at 4. I am Jessica Magaji Joseph. First, the headlines. Nigerians to introduce new curriculum for secondary schools. UK's new government to oust 92 unelected peers from upper house. Florida man arrested for making threats against Biden. And on sport, Modric extends Real Madrid deal for another season. Now the news in detail. The Minister of Education, Tahir Mamman, said on Thursday a new curriculum would be introduced for secondary schools nationwide by September 2024. Tahir made this known at the ongoing 2024 Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board Policy Meeting in Abuja. Recently, the National Senior Secondary School Education Commission decried the deplorable state of senior secondary schools in the country and called for collaboration to overcome some of the challenges bedeviling the secondary level of education in the country. The Commission listed some of the challenges confronting the sector, including infrastructural deficit, unqualified teachers, obsolete curriculum, and deplorable libraries and laboratories. The Lagos State government has issued an urgent call to action to address the rising threat of flooding, calling for robust flood defenses and collective commitment to sustainable environmental practices, warning that the state is at a crossroad and faces a growing threat from rising sea levels and flooding. In a statement released on X on Tuesday, Commissioner for the Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Rahab, emphasized the need for robust flood defense and a collective commitment to sustainable environmental practices. Wahab highlighted the clear scientific evidence that the planet is warming, causing erratic weather patterns and rising sea levels, which translates to heavier rainfall, more powerful storms, and a growing threat to coastal communities. Governors elected on the platform of the People's Democratic Party rose from their meeting in Enugu yesterday, warning against any presidential interference in the forthcoming off-season governorship elections in Edo and Ondo states. They also denounced what they describe as an abysmal and lackluster performance of the All Progressive Congress APC-led federal government, while also commending the governors of PDP-controlled states for their innovative approaches to development projects across the country. The meeting, which had in attendance 12 of the 13 governors of the PDP extraction physically present, also threw its weight behind the embattled Governor Simi Fubara of Rivers State and pushed for expedited negotiation of a new minimum wage. Presenting the communique at the end of the meeting, the chairman of the PDP Governors Forum and governor of Bauchi State, Bala Mohammed, said the governors admonished all the parties to ensure that campaigns were issues-based, violence-free, and in strict compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act. Minister of Works, David Umahi, has called on the people of Ebonyi State to support the federal government's 477-kilometer superhighway road project. Umahi said the project traversed Cross River Southeast, North Central Abuja, a spur of Lagos Port Harcourt. It crosses Enugu State, passing through Ebonyi to Ogoja in northern Cross River State. The minister disclosed this during stakeholders' engagement meeting held at the State Executive Council chambers, the new government house in Abakaliki. When completed, he said the African Trans-Saharan Highway would boost the economy of the Southeast and the country in general, describing it as an economically viable agricultural route. When we return, news from other parts of Africa. Please stay with us.
This is Hillstv. Quality broadcasting is what we'll bring to you. Now we be this
Welcome back. Police in Kenya on Thursday have banned protests in the capital indefinitely, citing a lack of leadership that would ensure peaceful protest. The ban was announced hours before a planned protest later Thursday, in which demonstrators were expected to march to the president's office, calling for his resignation over poor governance. Acting Police Inspector Douglas Kanja, in a statement, said the lack of leadership had made it difficult to enforce safety protocols. Recent protests have left businesses counting losses after the lootings and burnings. Protesters were yet to be spotted Thursday, but major roads leading to the president's office remain barricaded by the police. Rwanda's ruling coalition is leading with the highest number of seats in the legislative election, with President Kagame's Rwandan Patriotic Front remaining largely dominant with more than 62% of the vote. Other historic parties, notably the Liberal Party and the Social Democratic Party, received nearly 11% and 9% of the vote, respectively. Parties allied with the RPF, some of whose leaders and ministers supported President Paul Kagame during the presidential campaign and followed him in his campaign meetings. The two groups outside the coalition and its allies, PS Limbarakuri and the Democratic Green Party, finished with a little over 5% of the vote, thus reaching the minimum threshold to obtain seats in parliament. Following these proportional representation elections, the composition of the assembly is expected to change little compared to the one elected in 2018. We move to other parts of the world after this break. Please stay with us. Welcome back. In an address to the nations Wednesday, Haiti's prime minister called gangs to surrender their weapons. According to the UN, 2,500 people, including at least 82 children, were killed or injured because of gang violence in the first 3 months of the year. It is estimated that gangs control about 80% of the capital. When assuming office in June, Cornell promised to deliver for the Caribbean nation, grappling with overlapping security, humanitarian and political crises. Earlier this month, Jimmy Cheriza, a powerful gang leader, accused the Prime Minister of not opening dialogue with the alliance that he represents. Cheriza, who is best known as Barbecue, called for a national dialogue. The UK government on Wednesday announced plans to ask 92 House of Lords seats retained for hereditary lawmakers, resurrecting reform of the unelected chamber started under Tony Blair's Labour government in the 1990s. King Charles III, opening the first parliamentary session after Keir Starmer's general election win for Labour, said removing the pair's right to sit and vote in the Lords was part of measures to modernize Britain's uncodified constitution. Labour won the July 4th election by a landslide, returning it to power for the first time since 2010, allowing it to put its manifesto pledges into law, including the much-touted Lords reforms. Parliament's unelected upper chamber has long been subject to demands for reform to make it more representative. The scrapping of the hereditary pairs, the hundreds of members of the aristocracy whose titles are inherited, has been described as a first step in wider reform. Up next is business. Please stay with us. Welcome back. The former finance minister in Mozambique has gone on trial in the US over tuna bond scandal, which came to light in 2016. Manuel Chang, who was the country's finance minister from 2005 to 2015, is charged with taking bribes to commit his country secretly to huge loans, and prosecutors say were then looted. Bribes, fraud, and money laundering, the loans were meant to buy a fleet of tuna fishing ships, but went bad, plunging Mozambique into a financial crisis when the government's $2 billion in hidden debt was uncovered in 2016. Prosecutors say huge portions of the loans went to bribes and kickbacks to bankers and government officials, including $7 million to Chang himself. Chang abused his authority to enrich himself through bribery, fraud, and money laundering. Assistant U.S. Attorney Peter Koch said during his opening statement this week in a federal court in Brooklyn. The International Monetary Fund downgraded its forecast for Nigeria's economic growth in 2024 to 3.1%, citing weaker growth recorded in the first quarter of the year. First quarter 2024, the new forecast was contained in July 2024 World Economic Outlook of the IMF released. The downgrade represents 0.2 percentage points below their earlier forecast of 3.3%. The downgrade followed weaker than expected gross domestic product, the growth recorded by the country in first quarter 2023. Data from the National Bureau of Statistics showed that Nigeria's gross domestic product dropped quarter-on-quarter to 2.98% in first quarter 24 from 3.46% in the fourth quarter of 2023. The IMF, however, retained its 3.0% forecast for Nigeria's economic growth in 2025. In a significant move to address agricultural risk, the African Reinsurance Corporation recently orchestrated a 3-day workshop on agriculture and climate insurance in Accra. It served as a convergence point for insurance professionals from across Africa, fostering collaboration and capacity building, the development of innovative agricultural insurance products and services. 14 African nations, including Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Ethiopia, Kenya, Nigeria, Rwanda, South Africa, and others, were in attendance. The focus was on strategizing to mitigate the substantial risks that the continent's agricultural sector faces. Ken, Deputy Managing Director and Chief Operating Officer of Africa, underscored the crucial role of agriculture in Africa's economic growth. He acknowledged the sector's significant contribution to GDP and employment, while also highlighting the challenges posed by climate changes, conflict, and limited access to financing. Despite the growing recognition of agricultural insurance importance, Africa's market remains relatively underdeveloped. The World Trade Organization said on Wednesday that it was unable to get a clear picture of China's financial support for key industrial sectors, such as electric vehicles or aluminum and steel production, due to an overall lack of transparency. The WTO noted that the world's second-largest economy gave financial support and other incentives to industries over the 2021-2024 review period, but said that Beijing did not provide enough information for the WTO to have a clear picture of the programs. The overall lack of transparency on China's government support may also contribute to debate on what is perceived by some as overcapacity in certain sectors, the WTO's report said, naming a range of sectors from semiconductors to shipbuilding. The WTO noted in particular that it could not determine the size of Chinese government funds that it said were using public resources to make equity investments in key industries. The incentives provided by these funds have generally not been notified to the WTO. Still to come, sports. Please stay with us.
This is Hillstv. Quality broadcasting is what we'll bring to you. Now we be this
Welcome back. On sport, the Super Eagles have dropped to 39th position in the latest FIFA rankings, slipping one place from their previous rank of 38. This comes as Spain, the new champions of Europe, leap 5 places to claim the 3rd position globally. The Super Eagles, currently without a manager following Finidi George's resignation, remain within the top 5 teams on the African continent. Morocco, ranked 14th in the world, retains its status as the #1 team in Africa, a position solidified by their historic semi-final run in the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. The Teranga Lions of Senegal follow closely, ranking 19th globally. Nigeria completes the top 5 in Africa, despite their slight drop in global rankings. Springbok coach Rassi Erasmus released 16 players from camp on Wednesday to allow them a 10-day break before the Rugby Championship squad assemblies in Johannesburg next week. This means the squad has been reduced from 41 to 25 players from the test. With demanding clashes against Australia, New Zealand and Argentina next month, Erasmus said they were managing players' workloads. Real Madrid captain Luka Modric has signed a new 1-year deal to keep him at the Santiago Bernabeu for the upcoming season, the European champions announced on Wednesday. The 38-year-old midfielder extended his contract until June 30, 2025. Modric has won 6 Champions League titles, La Liga 4 times, and lifted the Copa del Rey twice with Real Madrid. Modric became the oldest goalscorer in European Championship history last month when he knitted for Croatia against Italy at Euro 2024, although he could not prevent the 2018 World Cup runners-up from suffering a group stage exit. And that's the sport news on World Now at 4. We move to the rest of the news after the break. Please stay with us. Welcome back. A Florida man has been arrested for making threats against U.S. President Joe Biden just days after an assassination attempt on his Republican rival Donald Trump. Jason Patrick, 39, was arrested on Monday, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Florida said. The office said in an announcement that Al Day of Quincy, Florida, allegedly engaged in sending threatening communications, making threats against Joe Biden and other federal officials. According to the criminal complaint, Al Day made threatening statements about Biden while being checked into a mental health facility in Tallahassee, Florida last month. He allegedly made further threats in posts on X. And that's World News Now, but before we go, here are the headlines again. We told you that Nigerians to introduce new curriculum for secondary schools. UK's new government to oust 92 unelected peers from upper house. Florida man arrested for making threats against Biden. And on sport, Modric extends Real Madrid deal for another season. Remember to visit us on Facebook at Hillstv Abuja, Instagram at Hillstv Abuja, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Hillstv. I am Jessica Magaji Joseph. Thanks for watching.